the first thing that I started noticing was the smell. It smelled like meat that was sitting in a warm pot or in a warm room for months. I went up and down the hallway sniffing at people's doors because it was getting unbearable. And when I got to his door, I could really smell it.
Five of the most prolific serial killers in American history were all operating at the same time.
John Wayne Gacy's
Ted Bundy is still alive.
BTK.
Jeffrey Dahmer.
The Green River Killer.
This was the golden age of serial killing.
Ridgway was killing them within days, weeks of each other. There were just so many victims during that time.
4 more victims were discovered, 3 in the river and 1 on the riverbank. All of them had been strangled.
When I enlisted, my roommate was Jeffrey Dahmer. And then it just started night after night, the attacks. He was raping me every single day.
Dennis Rader has not killed for years, and law enforcement is at a dead end with regard to the identity of BTK.
You see Bundy's narcissism on full display in the courtroom. Bundy actually thought that his abilities as an attorney were going to be so good that he wasn't even going to be convicted.
This court hereby imposes the death penalty upon the defendant Theodore Robert Bundy.
It took the jury less than 2 hours to find John Wayne Gacy guilty of murdering 33 young men.
When he was sentenced to death, he didn't even blink. He didn't bat an eye, nothing. Now, that's a true sociopath. I mean, the guy was scary.
Power and control definitely plays into the motivation of a serial sexual killer. And certainly in the 5 cases that we're discussing, Ridgway, BTK, John Wayne Gacy, Dahmer, Ted Bundy, all very relevant to them. That was all part of what turned them on and caused them to want to do it over and over again.
The Green River Task Force still is looking for the lead that will break the case.
In January of 1984, Gary Ridgway is divorced from his second marriage. He has 1 child, but is still working at the Kenworth Trucking Company. But in the past 2 years, he has killed 41 women.
He spent so much time trolling the highway, picking women up, killing them, dumping their bodies. His true avocation and what he enjoyed doing was hunting and killing women. And he was proud of the fact that he was good at it.
Low-risk victims would be prostitutes who eagerly get in your car for money, and they wouldn't be missed. Prostitutes are not as valued as much as a college person.
Angry residents are demanding police do more to stop the killings.
When the news started reporting about the bodies being found along the Green River, there was an outrage in the public. There was an anger and a frustration. It was like, because all of the victims are prostitutes and runaways, are they less important?
We are very disappointed in the focus of the media attention. The focus has constantly been on the fact that these women are prostitutes. That's not something we can stand for. These women are women first, and they're being killed.
Special funds from the county were allocated to the Green River Killer Task Force.
The Green River Task Force was doubled in size, making it the largest police investigation in Northwest history.
And I believe they were trying to show the public, hey, we're really taking this seriously and we're going to catch the guy.
The $200,000 Green River Task Force computer will make connections and comparisons about the case. It's a high-tech way to try and warm what is a very cold trail.
During that time, Ted Bundy was in prison in Florida. He was on death row. And he contacted Washington law enforcement and offered to share his thoughts about who this killer was.
He hadn't confessed to his own crimes, but Ted Bundy had offered to give law enforcement hypotheticals. Here is how the killer might have done this, or how the killer might have evaded law enforcement.
Ted Bundy was from the same area in Seattle. Although the victims he was selecting were different, nonetheless, it was still a predator in that same part of the Northwest. They understood that he was trying to extend his life. He did not want to be put to death, but they also really wanted to have help.
So some detectives flew down to Florida to interview him.
In his own mind, he wasn't a savage, lust-filled killer, but he was this guy he just got mad. The bitch made him mad.
The portrait that he painted of who the serial killer known as the Green River Killer was probably more of a self-portrait of Ted Bundy.
One of the worst things that can happen to someone that's psychopathic in nature is put them in prison, and now they have to live a routine every day. And so if he's able to spend hours and days talking to homicide investigators coming from all over the country, it really does take away from the boredom that I'm sure he was experiencing down there on death row.
I don't think he had anything to say that was relevant. I think it was just he wanted to be in the limelight again, be important.
Ultimately, he had no information at all that was helpful to the investigation. Everybody thought the Green River case was never going to get solved, but then Rebeccagarde had the courage to come forward and report what happened to her.
I was strangled by Gary Ridgway. I'm the only survivor. At that time, the area had been getting more and more killings, and the numbers would flash up on the TV screen quite a bit. They were asking for the public's help.
And hopefully, with the community support, we'll solve this case.
I had to make sure that I was going to be ready to say everything that happened to me.
It was understandable that she didn't come forward initially. And frankly, at that time, there wasn't a lot of effort to prosecute people who victimized women who were engaged in prostitution or sex trade workers. There just wasn't. Law enforcement wasn't that interested in it. Prosecutors weren't prosecuting those cases.
I had finally got the courage to talk to the police. So one day, out of the blue, I gave them a call.
This will be a statement of Ms. Rebeccagarde.
She had a critical piece of information that they hadn't had before.
I said, "Are you sure you're not police?" He showed me his ID, and I also saw something that said he had worked at Kenworth.
A lot of times what he would do to put our victim's mind at ease is he would say, "I have a good job," and maybe he would show them his Kenworth ID, and he would show a picture of his young son and say, "I'm not a killer, I'm a father." He could show them anything because he knew he was going to kill them.
They actually showed me a bunch of photos that were in a photo album.
She was able to give us the name.
Is the picture you saw, photo number 5, is that the man that assaulted you in 1980?
That is the man.
There's no doubt in your mind about that?
No doubt.
Okay.
I had picked out his photo. Of course. He was right in my face when he was attacking me.
You looked at me really strange.
He always had weird, evil eyes. Every photo and every picture that I see of him, I see those eyes. I remember them.
Bye.